Good evening. Welcome to the Board of Education meeting on February 6th. I call this meeting to order. All members are here. Next up is the Pledge of Allegiance, Forest Hills, JROTC, Navy.
Color gun. Hope. Individual observe. Budge. Color gun. Hope. Reset. Color.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join us with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavy. Color. Ready. Come. Individual right there. Budge. Forward. Budge.
Okay. Thank you. I need approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. I know. Next up is the John H. Crowder Service Award.
You all will hear my voice for a long time tonight. All right. For over 3 decades, John H. Crowder dedicated his life to supporting the youth of Union County. In honor of his enduring contributions and lasting impact, the Union County Board of Education presents the John H. Crowder Service Award on a monthly basis to recognize exceptional high school students who are actively contributing to their school and community. Recipients of this award excel academically and possess a well-established track record of community involvement. Tonight, we award the John H. Crowder Service Award for January to a Forest Hills High School senior. As a member, if you would please come, Kalia Russian. As a member of the National Honor Society, National English Honor Society, National Athletic Honor Society, Debater Club, and other prestigious organizations, Kalia Rushing excels academically and shows a commitment to service, leadership, and character development. Her involvement in sports as a varsity cheerleader and a flag football player showcases her strong passion for athletics. You got that from your daddy. She uses her knowledge and skills to coach middle school football, cheer squads, participates in cheerleading camp, and mentor younger cheerleaders. You got that from your mama, okay? Kalila has served as the sophomore class vice president and junior class president for student council. Her efforts in organizing class unity, events, and fundraising activities such as the Car Wash for Victory Junction, an organization that offers free, life-changing camp experiences for children with serious illnesses, showcases her dedication to positive impact. Kalia's service activities outside of school include volunteering at the Union County Special Olympics and welcoming students at local elementary schools. One of the most touching aspects of her community involvement is her favorite service activity, spending time with students at Walter Beacon Education Center. Along with other Forest Hill Club leaders, she sponsors a Child Before Christmas, gifting and visiting them in class, showcasing her compassion and positive influences on others. Kalila is planning to attend East Carolina University and major in nursing. Board members and those who have joined us tonight, please join me in congratulating Kalia Rushing as the January 2024 recipient of the John H. Crowder Service Award. Very good, girl. All right. The month of February. Tonight, we would like to honor Akshara Krishna. Did I say it right? Okay, all right. If you would please join me. She is the John H. Crowder recipient for the month of February. Over the past 4 years, Akshara Krishna has made substantial contributions to Marvin Ridge High School and the wider community. Within this school, she spearheaded a successful book drive in collaboration with the National English Honor Society, collecting over 120 books and played a pivotal role, on the leadership team for this fundraiser. VIBHA is an organization that works to solve systemic problems affecting children through volunteer efforts. This year, Akshara integrated the district's Portrait of a Graduate framework into student-led initiatives. She established the Visionary Council, created the Student Highlight Series, and partnered with the Broadcast Club to promote POJ content. Akshara also conducted workshops, mentored high school students, and initiated a countywide POG student leadership committee. Akshara also created the first Blooming Melodies chapter at the school. She founded Blooming Melodies, an academic specializing in music and soft skills mentorship when she was just 13 years old. She has successfully established 6 partnerships, organized diverse events, and raised $15,000 for Project Future India to support disadvantaged communities. She has guided students in launching initiatives, conducted workshops on extracurricular and college applications, led time management sessions for over 30 students, and managed private school lessons. Akshara is currently a volunteer research assistant in labor economics, contributing to the intergenerational mobility, home ownership, and wealth accumulation study. She is also co-director of operations for InvestBright, where she raises economic awareness by writing articles and organizing a Girls in Business program for elementary and middle school girls to help improve their financial literacy. She has also worked with Musicians in Motion to establish a summer camp for junior violinists. She has not decided on a college or university yet. Her top picks are the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill or North Carolina State to study economics and pursue a career in finance. Board members and those who have joined us today, please join me in congratulating Akshara Krishna as the February 2024 recipient of the John H. Crowder Service.
Thank you. Next up is influencers. Say it again. Thank you. Influence.
Since January we was canceled due to weather, we are absolutely thrilled to shine a spotlight on 4 remarkable individuals who have earned the title of UCPS Influencers for January and February 2024. This program honors Thank you, sorry. This program honors the enthusiasm, commitment, and outstanding work ethic of UCPS staff members who have consistently, put in an extra effort each day. What makes this recognition special is that it is the result of nominations from our staff, students, families, and community members. These are the people who see firsthand the positive impact these employees have on students and their peers. Let's begin with January influencers. I am honored to present Jennifer Robertson, a school psychologist at Wesley Chapel Elementary, and Eliza Cranfield, an exceptional children's job coach from Monroe High, who also manages the Coffee Nut, a cafe where transition to adulthood students receive real-world experiences. I will now invite the nominators to the podium to read the submission and recognize their honorees' accomplishments. Marion Robertson, can you come forward, please?
Jennifer Robertson is probably the most dedicated, kind-hearted, and hardworking person I've ever met. She pours her heart into all she does for her students, staff, and all of the schools that she has served and serves currently. It has been incredible to watch her carry out her job with such passion. She's also taken an incredible role in helping reestablish the UCPS Psychology Department, along with her co-lead Jenny Jacobus. It is amazing to see the progress that they have made. I must say I may be a little biased as I know her so well, but I truly believe she deserves every bit of this recognition. I love you, Mom. Thanks for all you do.
So I'm going to start off by saying I second that nomination. All right, good evening. I'm Dr. Laura Beecham, the Director of Exceptional Children's Program. So Mrs. Cranfield has joined me up here at the podium this evening. So Mrs. Cranfield is a daily inspiration to the students and the community. She consistently promotes the students' work by advertising the Coffee Nut and reviewing sales and inventory and purchasing decisions. You've probably seen some of her promotions on Facebook and social media that she's been promoting the students and their sales. Additionally, she seeks to understand the cafe's clientele better by promoting throughout the community. Most importantly, she ensures that students develop crucial employment skills on site. Her dedication to continuous improvement and leadership resonates with everyone who enters the cafe. Her leadership and coaching are highly regarded by the students who strive to meet and exceed the expectations. This culture of excellence can largely be attributed to Ms. Cranfield. I would say that Ms. Cranfield is completely inspired by the students as well. Thank you.
I am now honored to present our February influencers. Alan Sturdivant is a teacher, assistant coach for girls basketball, and band director at Monroe High, and Christina Chambers, a district lead custodian with custodial services. Ms. Chambers will be recognized in March due to her attending her daughter's senior night. Shannon Batchelor, can you please come up?
Good evening. I'm Shannon Batchelor. I'm the principal at Monroe High School. I will be reading student Sanaya Gingham's nomination of Mr. Sturdivant. She is unable to attend tonight. She's actually on the basketball court as we speak. Mr. Sturdivant inspires me because he goes the extra mile to make sure his students and players are successful. This man plays many roles. He is a teacher, a coach, a father in real life, and a father figure to some, a big brother, a mentor, and a friend. He puts in more work than anyone I know. Sometimes he's responsible for 80 kids for more than 15 hours, sometimes 20, and he doesn't complain. He'll get up and do it again the next day because he loves us, and it's what he does. He definitely deserves this.
I will now read the UCPS Influencers Proclamation from the Board of Education and Dr. Houlihan. Whereas the Union County Board of Education values hard work of each employee within the district. Whereas performance is an essential part of district operations. Whereas Jennifer Robertson, Eliza Cranfield, Alan Sturdivant, and Christina Chambers exemplify performance, dedication, and teamwork essential to the success of the district and its students. Now, therefore, we, the Board of Education for Union County Public Schools, and Dr. Andrew G. Houlihan, Superintendent, hereby proclaim Jennifer Robertson and Eliza Cranfield as the UCPS influencers for the month of January 2024, and Alan Sturdivant and Christina Chambers as the UCPS influencers for the month of February 2024. Congratulations on this outstanding honor, and thank you for all that you do to be a positive influence on others each and every day.
Well, Madam Chair, I've been told that there is a special deal on cinnamon buns tomorrow at the Coffee Nut. There's a special discount deal. It's located at 115 Henderson Street off of West Franklin in Monroe.
Okay, next up is public comments. At every regular meeting of the board, up to 60 minutes have been allotted for public comments. The board will not respond to public comments. However, a member may ask that the chair obtain clarification. Residents, parents, students, and employees of the district will receive priority on the list of the speakers. If a speaker is not present when his or her name is called, the opportunity to speak will be considered waived. Only persons signed up may speak. Speakers may not give their time to another person or have someone speak on their behalf. Speakers may address the board for a maximum of 3 minutes. The board will not hear in open session complaints about the performance of school personnel issues, confidential student issues. Should a speaker wish to seek information or share items that may not be shared during public comments, members of the UCPS cabinet staff are available to address your concerns or provide information. Cabinet staff members are seated at the table to my left. The first person is Jen Saunders.
Hello. Okay. Good evening, board. I'm Jen Sanders, and Happy New Year to everyone. So I just wanted to bring up a quote that was shared with me from some teachers from the PAC notes from back in December. And it said that the teacher's hours cannot be defined, that basically you're on call 24/7, 365. We know that's not a pretty answer, but unfortunately that's just the way it is. That's what the teachers are being told. Just putting it out there. The teachers aren't happy. I'm just saying that, asking a teacher to work 24/7 is a little bit impossible. So, and yet North Carolina is continually taking money from our state educational budget to not pay the teachers, but instead to fund vouchers. I bring it up all the time. So I ask once again what the board is going to do to keep taxpayers' money in public education. Leandra would have funded in 2021. We had a $9 billion surplus in the state budget, which would have funded year 2 and 3 of the Leandro ruling from the state Supreme Court. But instead, the NCGA has decided not to follow the ruling, and now they're going to once again try to overturn Leandro in the courts, which is February 22nd. Because they have the supermajority now in the legislation, imagine what North Carolina could be if we actually paid our teachers what they deserve. Again, I know that it's not necessarily on this particular board, but as a board, it would be really beneficial to continue to talk to our legislators up in states to encourage them to pay and to keep money in public education. And I've heard from multiple people that the voucher programs, that vouchers in charter schools and some private schools, they work for a lot of students, absolutely. But our taxpaying dollars should not have to go paying for those. If you choose to do those schools, absolutely, go for it. But if I choose to put my kid in a private school, I should have to pay for that myself. And I think that the taxpayer dollars need to stay in public education. Thank you very much.
Next up is Abigail Prado.
Good evening. Tonight, I would like to discuss a topic that plays a very important role in the education of our children, the overuse of technology used in our public schools. While technology has undoubtedly revolutionized the way we gather and access information, there is growing research that our schools should return to using traditional textbooks and reading materials. Tonight, I will present evidence from multiple research studies that show children learn to read better using traditional books, and I will argue why UCPS should consider eliminating excessive technology use within our classrooms. First, a study conducted by the University of Maryland found that students who read printed materials showed better reading comprehension and retention skills compared to those who read the same material on a digital device. The tactical experience of holding a book, turning its pages, and physically interacting with the text helped to create a deeper personal connection with the content, which led to increased engagement and improved understanding of the material. A second study conducted by the University of Stavanger in Norway found that the physical presence of a book enhanced a child's spatial memory, thus making it easier for the child to recall specific details from the text and visualize the content of what he or she was reading. Again, this dramatically increased overall reading comprehension. In addition to improved comprehension, traditional books also foster a stronger emotional connection with the material. A study published in the Journal of Experimental Psychology showed that children who read stories in print format experienced a stronger emotional response and were more empathetic to the characters compared to children who read the same stories on digital devices. Establishing these strong emotional connections with characters plays a crucial role in developing a love for reading, which is essential for developing critical thinking skills and creating a lifelong love of learning. While many will argue that technology offers interactive and engaging features that can enhance a child's learning experience, it is important that we strike a balance between technology and traditional reading materials. Technology should only be used as a supplementary tool in our education system. It should not replace textbooks and storybooks completely. In conclusion, evidence from multiple research studies proves that children learn to read better using traditional books. The tactile experience, improved reading comprehension, and stronger emotional connections associated with physical reading materials makes a compelling case that schools should strongly consider eliminating excessive technology in classrooms. By finding the right balance between technology and tactile reading, we can ensure that our children receive a well-rounded education that nurtures their love of reading and equips them for long-term academic success. Thank you.
Next is Reagan Shaw.
Okay, I think this is maybe my 16th meeting in a row. I've given so many speeches, so from now on, I'm just going to talk to you guys like you're sitting around my kitchen table. I want to, as it started Black History Month, I want to send my best wishes to Rob Williams' family. I think he continues to be an inspiration. I know he continues to be an inspiration in Union and beyond. All right. I have listened to so many wonderful stories of teachers. I've heard so many testimonials being in this room of these incredible educators. And it's so moving. And it really hits home with me because I know how much it's made a difference in my son's life. The quality of teachers, it does so much for a kid. And when I see that in this state, these teachers are being disrespected, it drives me crazy. I came back from England primarily for the public schools in the US, and to see them under attack incenses me. And what really, really makes me mad in this room is that a lot of members of this board actually proactively campaigned to help put the people in office that are harming our public schools. When I grew up in Louisiana, I started off in private and then I moved to public and realized how incredible public schools were. And that would have been just absurd to consider putting public money into private schools. I mean, that was not something anybody would accept. And now this fringe idea that was driven by the homeschooling movement is now becoming mainstreamed, and it is doing damage to our schools and is doing damage to our educators. And I would like you guys to really start advocating publicly, because whatever you're doing privately isn't working. I talked to Todd Johnson over the internet last week, and he was like saying how much throwing money at failing schools is not the answer. So if you want those schools that are, especially the ones that are struggling in Union, to have help, you're going to have to do something than backroom conversations, because that's not going to work. You're going to have to publicly go on record in support of Leandro against vouchers, and that's all I was asking you to do last time. And I am not the asinine one here. When you're supporting people who defund public schools, that is what is asinine.
Next up is I need a motion to approve the December 5th open session meeting minutes.
So move.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Next up is I need approval of the consent agenda.
So move, Madam Chair.
All in favor?
Aye.
9-0, thank you. Next up is the annual audit report.
Good evening, board.
Good morning, or good evening.
We have Mr. Adam Shapirick here. He's our auditor. He's going to present our annual financial statements, and we'll be able to answer any questions. So I'm going to let him have it.
Good evening. This is my third presentation of the day. The other two, I spent an hour talking about compliance testing. I promise I will not repeat some of the information in those presentations so that we can move through these financial statements quickly and give you some of the important numbers that I think you can find. You were provided a PDF of the annual comprehensive financial statements. There's a lot of pages there. There's a lot of information. I'm going to go through a couple of the items that I think are most important, give a little bit of commentary on where you stand fund balance wise, and answer any questions that you may have. If you're following along in the actual financial statements, page 1, after all of the Roman numerals, is our actual audit opinion letter. So the board actually enters into a contract with our firm and the local government commission to provide an audit of management of these financial statements and to issue our opinion, basically to let you know that the financial statements are accurate. So on page 1 is our opinion letter over the financial statements. And in the first section, the opinion paragraph, it basically states that we believe the financial statements provided here for Union County Schools accurately reflects the net position and the fund balance of the school system as of June 30, 2023. This is considered a clean, unmodified opinion letter. And if you notice, we're issuing our opinion on 2 individual measurements of finance, net position and fund balance. There are 2 financial highlights on page 4 that show you kind of the disconnect when you're measuring your finances based on net position versus fund balance. So these financial statements really provide 2 levels of equity for the school system. The fund balance, which is actual revenue or actual dollars available for appropriating, fund balance within those funds. Net position, you take that fund balance, you add fixed assets, you add pension liabilities, and you come up with an overall value of the school system if you were comparing values of school systems like you were public companies. But that's not how things operate. Your fund balance, to me, is the most important metrics of the financial position of the school system. So when you read through the first section or even into the statistical sections, when you are looking at charts that present you with information about net position, just know that you're including, again, value of assets that you can't sell or that you can't borrow against. You're also including value of liabilities that aren't your liabilities. They're really state liabilities, but your percentage is represented within these financial statements. So any schedule that shows fund balance, to me, again, is more informative about what you have available to appropriate, what you have in the bank, how many years you can operate in the manner you're operating, and so on. So knowing those distinctions, I think, goes a long way towards dissecting the useful information for the board and for management from these financial statements. All the information around net position and all these other assets and liabilities, they're all required. I can't get away from them. They're all represented here in part of the audit. But if you're looking, again, for those key exhibits, page 14, exhibit 3 is a balance sheet for your governmental funds. So again, we're providing the information fund by fund of your fund balance. The first column on this exhibit, page 14, exhibit 3, is your general fund. And at the bottom of that column, it shows your total fund balance for the year in local fund, $10,500,000. That's a decrease of $3 million from the previous year. There is no fund balance in your state and federal funds. Those are basically allotments. You spend them as you receive them. You receive them once an expenditure has been identified and a purchase order issued. So you're never carrying state or federal funds in those two funds. So there's no balance sheet for those two funds. Then you have your other special revenue fund, which is another local source of funds. That fund also carries some state and federal restricted dollars as well. Your general fund and the other special revenue fund 15 years ago were really combined into one fund that made up your general fund. But there are some programs like NC Pre-K, there's Medicaid dollars that aren't really local funds. And so those were separated out, and really what's left in the general fund is really county money, and the other special revenue fund is everything else. Fund balance in that fund is $11,247,000, a decrease of $456,000 from last year. Of that $11 million, 4.9 of it is actually restricted for specific programs for, like, again, Medicaid, if you have any NC Pre-K, those programs, those dollars have to be spent in accordance with the programs that you actually receive the funds for. The available fund balance is really the $5.2 million of assigned for special revenue funds. That's fund balance that's made up from funding sources like indirect cost, sales tax reimbursements, non-restricted funds. So we're not allowed to call the available fund balance in the other special revenue fund as unrestricted, because you can only have one unrestricted fund balance, and that's found in the general fund. So the next lowest level is that assigned for special revenues. By virtue of being in this fund, it is assigned for special revenues. So when you look at what you really have available for appropriating is the $10 million of fund balance in the local and about $5.2 million of fund balance in the other special revenue fund. You also have $2 million of capital outlay fund balance, a decrease of $76,000 from last year. And you have $4.99 million of fund balance at the individual school level. These are the funds collected for athletics, fundraisers, all housed at the representative school that makes up the total of all your schools. And again, that totals $4.9 million of fund balance. So all in all, total fund balance $28.8 million. But again, what's really available for appropriating for general education is the $15.2 million or so in the general and the assigned in the other special revenue fund. Are there any questions about that? When I look at where you stand fund balance wise over the last 10 years, and there is a schedule in here for that, you've clearly had worse years. You've actually raised your fund balance from almost zero, really. When you look at 3 or 4 years ago, you were down to like $1 million of fund balance, only $165,000 available for appropriation. And then when you look back even further from that, your fund balance level is higher than it has been historically in the last 10 years, but it is still relatively low for your size district. $500 million of revenues and expenditures in a given year, and you only have a $15 million cushion. And when you look at the $3.5 million or so of fund balance that you used in the current year, knowing you have $15 million still available, you can kind of do the math on how many years you can even just repeat this prior year. And unfortunately, there is going to be some strains on general funds. There is an income statement on Exhibit 4, page 16, that shows the revenues and expenses by fund. One of your funds, the federal funds, had $38.9 million of revenue. It's the third column on that Exhibit 4, which is essentially an income statement for your governmental funds. $38.9 million of federal expenditures. Of that, $21.7 million was made up of COVID-19 ESSER funds that are set to expire over the next 12 months. This is what's known as the ESSER cliff, they're calling it. There are programs being funded with the $21.7 million that will either have to be funded locally or ended. So when you look at that $38.9 million, it's only really you'll really only have $17 million of kind of reoccurring federal revenues in that fund. So I think this, again, is just going to be one of the uphill battles faced with, going forward and how to continue to some of the services that you might want to continue that are being paid for with those ESSER funds. You can see your total revenues, again, for the entire year across all governmental funds, $479 million. Again, $15 million of available fund balance for appropriating as a percentage of that is really small. Again, you've been in worse situations. You had increased fund balance over the last few years through some of the cost saving measures and thanks to the COVID funds received. But you're using of, again, $3.5 million does lend towards future possible strains on your local funds and fund balance.
What in your eyes would be the perfect balance or percentage of that fund balance?
And it's difficult to say. As a percentage of the direction, I like to look at the direction as a percentage of how much you have. Again, using $3.5 million, knowing you have 10 million or 15 million available, those are directionally contrary to what I would say is a positive position. Again, you have been in worse situations with only $1 million of fund balance in local, but again, using 30% of your fund balance in 1 year is a tough direction on top of facing that ESSER cliff. Really, on a county by county basis, there is just a relationship between school systems and counties about what fund balance should be. And we've seen a lot of districts over the last few years add fund balance. They spent 3 or 4 years through COVID and even before then of adding fund balance. And it gets to an amount that's too high and the county starts cutting funding or telling them they need to spend money for these laptops or this construction project or these repairs and maintenance, and that fund balance that they might spend 4 years building to $30 million becomes $10 million in an instant. You're really operating in a very fine window of fund balance. You have been for the last 10 years. I mean, when you look at the chart for how much fund balance you have had over the last 10 years, your pencil has to be very sharp at this district, given your level of fund balance compared to your size. There are districts smaller than you that have $20 to $30 million of fund balance in local. They are having conversations with their counties about how to cut that fund balance. So there is no just magic number, magic percentage. Every county is different also, and depending on how locally funded they are as a percentage of revenues. Districts that are highly federally funded because of their demographics or highly state funded because of their locations, they have to have different levels of fund balance than you do when you're nearly 25% of your funds come from local sources. So your unfunded mandates from the state, changes in pay scales, they affect you harder on your local fund than they will other school systems. And that whether the state continues to fund you based on positions or dollar allotments, I think that's always going to be the case, again, because you receive $117 million from the county of that $479 million budget. So again, I know you want a special secret number. the direction you were going the last few years, obviously much better than, again, using 15 to 25% of your fund balance in 1 year. All right. After that, there are some schedules showing those same funds, budget versus actual. You had no budget violations. If you're following along, page 22, Exhibit 7 is a balance sheet for your 2 enterprise funds. So the first 2 schedules were over your governmental funds. You also have a school food service program and an after-school program. Both those are considered business type funds. They basically sell a product or sell a service. They're accounted for differently. For them, net position and fund balance are the same thing. We actually have to capitalize their fixed assets directly in their general ledger. You actually have to record their percentage of that pension liability directly in the ledger. So again, net position and fund balance are the same number, and they include non-cash assets, non-cash liabilities. So instead of looking at their fund balance, which is actually negative dollars for both of these, I like to look at cash and investments. So your school food service fund has $7.5 million of cash and $1.1 million in investments. That's a decrease of $515,000 from the prior year. Last year, which was for the fiscal year ended 2022, was actually the last year of the COVID feeding program where all kids ate for free. They all ate for free at a high reimbursement rate. And for those few years of COVID, you were able to actually add cash. You actually added $5.2 million of cash in 2022. That essentially funded a cushion that now you have available for using over the next few years. So again, with nearly $8.5 million of cash on hand and only using $500,000 a year, that to me is a good representation. You can do exactly what you did last year for quite a few years before you have to worry about your cash position. Some of the big differences in operations for this year compared to last year. If you're looking at Exhibit 8, page 23, there's an income statement for both of those funds. This year, food sales were $7.8 million, and last year, 2022, was $2.3 million. Federal reimbursements this year were $11 million compared to last year, $20 million. So again, with all kids eating for free, participation was high. It was high across the state. Every student gets a meal. You get reimbursed at a high level, a high rate. And so you have a total of $22 million of sales. This year, between sales and federal reimbursements, you're looking at more like $19 million. So you actually had a net decrease of total sales, total revenue from food sales of $3.9 million. While serving $3.9 million less of food, your food costs went up $145,000. This is just a function of inflation, food cost. Your salaries also went up. When you look at salaries, again, because pension expense and pension liabilities are included within this fund, one small change in the pension plan might change your salaries expense by $2 million. But when I look at what you actually paid for salaries, it went up $352,000 from the previous year. And again, another function of just increases in pay rates, increases in retirement benefits, the amount that you have to send in to the state for pension and post-employment benefits. Those retirement benefits all keep going up. So when you look at the decrease of sales of $3.9 million, operationally, you still spent more money on food and salaries. And again, you made $5 million the previous year thanks to those ESSER funds, that COVID-19 feeding program, and you were able to operate with only using $500,000 of cash. And I think that's probably right where you need to be. You were able to, while using $500,000 of cash, you were able to purchase some equipment. There was a $230,000 worth of equipment purchases That's part of that decrease of 500,000. So you're really kind of in a position of operating at a break even in that fund, maybe using a little bit of cash. But again, there's a future inflationary pressures, future salary increases, future retirement benefits. So you do have enough cash in that child nutrition fund, though, to weather that for a handful of years. Any questions on those funds? So after the income statement, Exhibit 8, you have your cash flow statement on Exhibit 9, page 24. That shows you those changes in cash balances. And after that, you have pages and pages of footnotes and schedules. And if anybody's following along, page 71, which is in the statistical section, table 4 shows your fund balances for governmental funds for the last 10 years. And I think this will put a really good perspective of where you stand now and how you've operated for the last 10 years. Again, in a very narrow window. I actually work on 3 other districts your size. Their fund balances, they go up and down. There'll be $30 million swings over the course of a decade. The fact that your lowest level of fund balance in the last 10 years in total is $13 million and your highest is 18.6. Again, that's a very narrow window of operating. This schedule basically shows your general fund balance across the top of the first section, and then the remaining governmental funds fund balance to give you that grand total at the very bottom. If you look at just your general fund, your highest general fund balance was 13.4 million, which was last year. Your lowest fund balance in that general fund was 1.3 million, which was in 2019. So again, that shows you where you were 10 years ago, how dire of a situation it became in 2019, how you've come back out of it, but you're still relatively close to where you were 10 years ago. So again, you operate in it with a very narrow usage or gaining of fund balance. And I think that should be the goal of most school systems. Any questions there? All right. After that, there's a compliance section that begins on page 99. And I'll just kind of summarize real briefly what this means. So our audit is not just financial statements. We come in and make sure all your assets, liabilities are recorded, general ledgers looks good, your internal controls are in place. If there were problems with the financial information that you're getting annually or monthly at any board meeting, if we came in and made drastic adjustments to your general ledger and told Shauna she thought she was going to gain $1 million of fund balance, but she really used $1 million of fund balance, we see those as deficiencies in controls and deficiencies in reporting, and we don't have any of those. So the compliance audit, along with the financial statement, really speaks to the accuracy of the information that you get ongoing. I don't think I'm telling you anything that you didn't know financially before this meeting or before you even looked at these statements. You have very little fund balance. You're in a position of using fund balance. Again, that information doesn't change when we come in. It's the same information year round. So our audit, again, is not just a financial statement audit, but there's also requirements for various state and federal dollars. And there's also the requirement to look at internal controls over how you spend those state and federal dollars and controls on how you report financing or how the finance department has their internal controls set up. So page 1 was an opinion letter on the financial statements. Page 99 starts 3 more letters, 1 over federal compliance, 1 over state compliance, and 1 over internal controls, both for compliance and financial statements. All 3 of those, again, clean, unmodified opinions. We noted no discrepancies in how you spent your state dollars in accordance with the programs that required you to spend it in that manner. We found no question costs, state or federal, again, with the programs that we audited as major. For this year, your ESSER funds are considered major because they're high risk. They have to be audited for compliance every year. But we also looked at your EC cluster, your Title I funds, and your teacher incentive fund. All of those were your federal major programs for the year. And then also on the state side, your state public school fund has to be audited as major every year because it represents 80% of your state dollars. And also the state capital infrastructure funds, the facilities grant, that was a major state fund this year. So across all those programs, we noted no deficiencies and no improper spending or question costs. And also, again, back to the financial statements, internal controls there, no significant deficiencies, no material weaknesses in controls. And if you are, if you are looking for the makeup of those ESSER funds, it's really the entire program is called the Education Stabilization Fund. Page 111, you have a schedule of federal and state awards at the very back. Page 111 shows you the federal programs that make up all of the COVID-19 dollars, so to speak, and see all the various PRCs, and that's where it totals in the middle of the page, $21,727,000 across 12 different programs here. That is that ESSER cliff. These are the programs that either end or are funded locally. There are a lot of one-time expenditures in here, but there are also some reoccurring expenditures and reoccurring programs. So that's that, again, that ESSER cliff that I think is going to be a struggle for a lot of districts across the state. And that's all I've got. I appreciate your time and happy to answer any other questions. Or I can just leave.
Board, I just want to make a few general comments. I don't like what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it anyway, because it is a brag on our system. But I hate the kind of implicit intent of this, but I brag about us all the time because I say to my colleagues, no district does more with less when it comes to funding. We deserve to be funded at a much higher level. I've always said that. But when you think about how efficient we are and how our finance team manages our funds, no other district does more with less. Second, I want to say, and I won't repeat what Adam told me in my office when we reviewed this audit, but I want to remind the public and the board, we are also in the middle of a business modernization conversion, where our finance staff is managing multiple platforms and looking at cash flow, accounting, all kinds of things. We've made the intentional decision not to go to the payroll side because we do not want to have any issues with our ability or inability to pay our employees accurately. And we're not going to move to that until we have 100% guarantee that whatever system we're going to work with has that capability. But Adam's comment to me was really something to the effect of the finance team's ability to manage cash flow and a budget like this in the middle of this ongoing modernization is a bit miraculous. And I said to him, that starts at the top. And so I want to say to our finance staff and especially to our CFO, Ms. McLam, thank you for continuing to do a phenomenal job for our district. You keep us very well in check. You're beyond compliance. You do a phenomenal job. I know we give you a hard time because you say no a lot, but you say no for good reason, and I appreciate that. So I just wanted to say to Ms. McLam, thank you for your leadership. And
that summed it up beautiful. Again, page 71, that table 4, it's very telling. Again, very narrow. It takes a real hawk to keep a district this size in those parameters.
I'm going to get that on a t-shirt.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Next up is the superintendent's report, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So every week in Union County Public Schools is a phenomenal week. Last week was a really phenomenal week for a couple of reasons. We hosted administrators and educators from across the entire country last week as part of the Franklin Covey Leader in Me Symposium. 8 of our Leader in Me schools opened their doors to guests as students led discussions, gave our visitors tours throughout their buildings, talked about their ongoing personal and academic data, and how they incorporate Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People into their daily lives. I want to thank the Franklin Covey team for selecting UCPS as a major district to highlight. Especially want to thank Casey Rimmer, who was our liaison with that group, for all of her hard work, and a big shout out to our kids and our teachers and our Leader in Me schools who are doing phenomenal work every single day. Last week, we also celebrated a new milestone for UCPS, highlighted by our state superintendent, Catherine Truitt, who visited CATA to showcase the number of student credentials earned through our CTE department. We're very proud of our students. UCPS is the only district in the state that is ranked in the top 3 in credentials earned for the last 3 consecutive years. And we take a lot of pride in that. Big shout out to Brian Davis and our career readiness department for your hard work. I hope everyone will join us this month in celebrating Love the Bus Month. This is the month that we celebrate and honor our transportation team. We want to make sure we recognize our drivers, our mechanics, our specialists, our staff members. I hope our transportation team knows how very much we appreciate you. And we'll be highlighting these individuals and our teams throughout the month. This week is also National School Counseling Appreciation Week. Thank you to our school counselors. We know how critical you are to the success of our children. Please take some time this week to thank our school counselors when you can. And lastly, we are bringing back our parent education series through a familiar format called Facebook Live. Our first session will be this Thursday at 6 p.m. The topic is social media dangers, and we have Agent Eric Treseski from the Secret Service who will talk with us about tips to keep children safer online and also providing key resources for parents. We hope this will be interactive on this platform. We want to encourage parents to also submit questions for our Agent Treseski to answer. Board members, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. No, it's awesome. Next up is the Safe School Safety Grant. Mr. McCraw.
Thank you, Ms. Heintel. Good evening, board members, Dr. Houlihan and Michelle Morris. Ms. Morris, I'm sorry. So tonight I come to you with good news. We received grant funding from the Center for Safer Schools, school safety grant, totaling $186,500. Earlier this year, the Center for Safer Schools offered the grant opportunity. Union County Public Schools applied for that. What our plan would be to work with our law enforcement partners in consultation and our school administrators. We would purchase body scanners with the money we received, and we would be able to use that at like large-scale events such as ball games, when needed, just when needed, not all the time, but just when needed. We've already consulted the safety committee about this grant funding. They've been updated on it. We've consulted our law enforcement partners, but we feel like this is good money that we received to buy these body scanners. It's always good to get grant funding. So any questions about this?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
With this grant, is there, I know with grants, you have to be specific on what you're going to use them for, but I know that one area that needs to be strengthened with our safe schools and what have you is with the communities. Is there some type of area within the grant that can help create some type of collaboration, I guess, with schools and community to help with, because a lot of the challenges that some of our schools are facing, it comes from community and what have you. So something that can be collaborated together to maybe increase funding for a grant, to get more money for a grant that could help with bridging that gap?
So this grant opportunity is specific to school safety equipment. In the future, if one's offered for that type of service, we'll take a look at it. But right now, this is for school safety funding or school equipment funding. This would be specific to body scanners.
How you explain the equipment? Is that, I'm assuming it's very mobile?
It is. We looked at the open gate system. They weigh about 25 pounds apiece, so you can move them around pretty easily. It's not the big ones like you see at the airports and things like that. We did look at that, so that way if we needed to move one around to different high schools for large-scale events, we could do that. So they're about 25 pounds. They got little battery packs on them. We got the bags that we can keep the dust out of the equipment. So I think we got some good stuff here.
I have how many did we get?
So we requested enough for 2 at each school, but we got about half of that funding. So we can purchase probably about 8 or 9 of them. You also get a hand wand to back up. If somebody walks through the body scanner, you can use the hand wand then if something is detected. So with the handheld, the open gate, actually the stand-up unit, and the bags that protect them from the dust and stuff, around 8 or 9. We'll have to work with finance and work with Ms. McLam on purchasing those. Or her department, I'm sorry. Purchasing department. Thank you, Ms. Heintel.
I don't have my mic on. Okay, next up is policies and administrative guidelines for review.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education. Today you have 5 policies and 2 administrative guidelines for review. If anyone has any questions about any of them, I will try and answer them. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is board comments.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. I want to, a couple things. I'm excited about the school year for our students, this new year. And this month is Black History Month, so I know that our schools are really doing some things to highlight the accomplishments of Black America from the past and the present. So I'm really looking forward to hearing about those things and hopefully being able to see some of those events that will take place this year. One announcement I would like to make is that in District 1, the Village Development Center will be hosting our town hall meeting, which will be on February the 15th at 6:30. And we would like all of our families to attend. Our topic is the power of parent involvement. And we are in need of our parents to get more involved in their child and their children's education. You have to be a child's #1 advocate. And so we're going to have some phenomenal community individuals who are going to talk about the importance of parent involvement. And board members, you all are welcome to attend these events and these meetings because it would be great for them to see individuals to come to take part in these conversations to help strengthen our community. So that will be on February the 15th, 6:30 to 7 o'clock. Dinner will be served, and from 7 to 8 o'clock will be the facilitator speaking. Thank you.
Anyone else? Nope. Okay, next. Are you something? Yes?
No, I just wanted to piggyback on, he jumped on it first, and I'm so glad that he did about this being Black History Month. And I would just encourage our UCPS team just to look around and see some of the great accomplishments by some of the Black Americans right here in our county that have done tremendous things. For example, we just had Coach Johnny Sal, and of course, y'all know I love Monroe, but he was the North Carolina Shrine Bowl coach for all of North Carolina. That is pretty huge, pretty big. And so we have some great accomplishments right here in our own county. I happen to think that, we have the greatest communicator in office here for us. She does an outstanding job She may not look at herself like that, but I know I do. And I brag about her throughout
True,
the
yes.
town, Mr. Hira. I'm sure that she's probably looking, Reverend Bishop, you talk about me? But yes, I'm extremely proud of the work that you do coordinating like you do. So my point here is just simply to look around and see that this is not something that is absent of our county. And the folks in these positions got here either such as District 1. My school board representative is Reverend Kirkpatrick for District 1. He got here because the people in the district voted for him. We do great things, and I just want folks to know that. We're here because of accomplishments, and that was Dr. King's dream, that we get to these places, not because somebody hands us something, but we get out there and we grind. We get out there and we hustle. We get out there and we present our resumes, our agendas, and we accomplish great things. So I'm proud of our superintendent and his team for the hirings that they do. And just look around and see the greatness of Team UCPS.
True. Next up is announcements. We're moving our match meeting from Tuesday, March to March 12th because of Election Day on March 5th. And the policy committee is going to meet on February 20th at 8 a.m. via Zoom. Anybody else?
Strategic Planning, Transportation, and Technology Committee will be meeting on the 28th at 8 a.m. That meeting will be virtual via Zoom.
And then facilities will meet also on the 28th at 9 a.m. via Zoom, and curriculum follows at 10 a.m. on the 28th via Zoom.
And finance to be determined.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
That would be great. Thank you.
All right.
Matt seconded.
All right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.